You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey, Young and the Restless fans, Sharon Newman is about to get a major break in the case against her, and it's all down to Nick going all out to save her, even if it means going through the garbage to keep her out of prison. It's Belinda from Soap Dirt, and let's talk about how Sharon's life is about to change for the better, thanks to Nick. If you're not following us, please click subscribe before we get into it. Okay. So to his credit, ever since Sharon's life began unraveling months ago, Nick Newman has been there for her, offering to help in any way that he can, and at the same time, weirdly, Sharon's been hallucinating this imaginary Nick and conjuring up these heated moments and stolen kisses that weren't real. And then cruel Cameron would always pop up and interrupt. And it turns out that hallucination Nick, no matter how passionate he was, cannot compare to the real deal. Even though Sharon confessed and Phyllis has made additional accusations, Nick has not wavered in his compassion and his devotion to Sharon, to trying to see her through this. And this week, Nick is determined to figure out why nothing in this murder mess adds up to him. Yes, it's true, Sharon confessed, but Nick just can't see her going to Daniel's place and bashing in Heather's head in a fit of rage. Even given the little temper tantrums aimed at Daniel and Heather and Lucy in public before the killing, Nick knows in his heart Sharon is not capable of taking someone's life like that. And granted, she did kill Cameron Kirsten last year, but that was in defense of herself and her daughter, Faith Newman. So despite all of Phyllis's accusations that Sharon's a twisted killer that targeted Heather, Daniel, and then her, Nick's just not buying it. And personally, I think Phyllis might be projecting her own streak of scary vengefulness onto Sharon. When Phyllis fell down those stairs years ago, Sharon left her there. She ran off scared, but she didn't push her down and she didn't think she was going to die, and I just can't see Sharon doing something like Phyllis did, for instance, aiming her car at Christine Williams to try and run her over and kill her, only to hit Paul Williams instead. We know that happened, and that was with intent to kill. So maybe Phyllis is judging Sharon based on what she herself is capable of doing and has done in the past. But Phyllis's insistence that Sharon's a psycho killer just doesn't sit right with Nick. It doesn't make sense that Sharon would get that violent. It's not her nature. So this week, Nick sits down with Chance Chancellor to have a serious talk. Nick feels like something is off. He does not like that Sharon confessed to these criminal deeds that she doesn't remember doing because of the blackouts. And her lawyer, Michael Baldwin, doesn't like it either. Chance, however, says there's nothing here for me to investigate. But Nick has something for him to investigate, something he suspects may be relevant evidence. And Sharon's not happy when she finds out, but it turns out Nick went digging through her trash and pulled out her old bottle of pills. And part of that was because her ex-husband noticed that right after Phyllis's accident, there was a big change in Sharon. And you could, chalk it up to the accident or whatever. But what Nick remembers and is true is that Sharon went back to see her shrink and he put her on new medication. And Nick talked to the doctor, who said that her previous bipolar medication, even if it wasn't working right for her, would not have caused the blackouts, the memory loss, and the violence. So Nick tells all of this to Chance, and then Nick asks him to run a test on the medication left in the bottle. And, Sharon was likely taking a standard bipolar drug like Depakote, Tegretol, Latuda, Abilify, one of those. I think half those medications run ads during soap operas, those and Ozempic. I'm surprised they don't call them dope operas now that it's all pharmaceuticals instead of soap. But, if it pays the bills and keeps the stories on the air, it's fine. So anyway, Nick hands the bottle over to Chance and asks him to have the police lab tested. That's all he's asking. Nick knows that Chance can't reopen the investigation without new evidence because it's in the DA's hands and she's confessed. But Nick is not going to let Sharon go down without a fight if there's something he can do, even if she's unwilling to fight for herself right now. So what's interesting here is that Chance refused to take a second look at anything in Heather's murder case when Daniel was framed and accused. But in this case, he actually agreed to do what Nick asked and have the bottle tested. And this is going to be a game changer. I am quite certain that Ian and Jordan messed with Sharon's meds. And maybe there's some of her standard medication in those capsules with other stuff added into it. Or maybe Ian had Jordan replace Sharon's pills completely so that she wasn't even getting a minimal dose of her bipolar medication and instead was getting something much worse. She was getting some kind of hallucinogen, something like ketamine, LSD, maybe even GHB, that date rape drug that causes blackouts and amnesia. And I think Chance agreed to test the pills primarily to avoid Nick pestering him. But when the lab tests come back with a startling result, that should change everything. And Michael and Nick are determined to convince Sharon to fight instead of resigning herself to life behind bars. And the results Chance gets back could convince Sharon, hey, maybe she didn't do all those terrible things she confessed to, and maybe there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Even her dumping Heather's body and framing Daniel could probably be dismissed if Michael argued diminished capacity because Sharon was being drugged with really scary stuff. As for Heather's killing, we all know that was either Ian or Jordan acting on Ian's orders. I'm guessing it was Jordan. And of course, Phyllis and Lucy won't believe that Sharon is a victim in this too. You know, Lucy really is a chip off the Freaky Phyllis block and is lashing out. But, you know, she is a teenager who just lost her mom. So Lucy absolutely has an excuse. And Phyllis is out there doing what Phyllis does, just stirring the pot as hard as she can. And what's worse is once Nick, Michael, and Chance see that something else was afoot, you know, they might rub it in Phyllis's face since she's been so unhinged about Sharon. I get where she's coming from. If someone framed my kid for something, I would be livid and lashing out too. But Phyllis is, you know, kind of unhinged right now. So the big question is, to me also, how did Ian and Jordan mess with Sharon's meds? I mean, I think it's pretty clear Jordan has a spare key to Sharon's house because she's been messing with stuff there, tampering with her phone, just doing other things. But don't forget, Jordan Howard was a nurse and she easily snuck in to see Claire in the psych ward. So Jordan is pretty skilled at sneaking around hospitals, dressed as a medical professional. And if Sharon gets her meds filled at the hospital, like so many people do on soap operas instead of going to Walgreens like the rest of us, you know, Jordan might have swapped the regular pills out with bad stuff even before Sharon picked up her prescription at the pharmacy. The important thing is the drug test should come up with a result that's wildly off. The lab techs should find out that what's on the label was not what's in the capsules, and then Michael can really go to work to get the confession tossed. And of course, everybody's going to want to know who did this. You know, maybe there'll be some fingerprints on the bottles. I doubt it. Jordan's pretty smart. So this week, Sharon's annoyed that Nick dug in her trash for her old medicine bottle, but I think she's going to change her tune very soon. Once again, Nick is riding to Sharon's rescue. Keep watching to see those hinky test results on Y&R.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.